Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I just want to start this video with a huge thank you to all of you amazing people. We've hit 47 subscribers. Your support means the world to me, and I couldn't have done it without you. But guess what? Only 3% of you watching this right now are actually subscribed. So if you're enjoying the content, make sure to hit that like button and smash that subscribe button while you're at it. Don't forget to also turn on post notifications so you never miss an upload. We're officially on the road to 100 subscribers, and my goal is to hit that milestone by the end of 2025. Let's make it happen together. Now I've got a fun little challenge for you all. In the comments, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 100. If you can guess the number, I'll pin your comment and give it a like. Just one rule, you've got to be subscribed to win. So, go ahead and drop your guesses below. Alright, enough chit-chat. Let's get right into the video. I was just trying to grab a snack. It was late, around 10:30 p.m. The office was nearly empty, the hum of fluorescent lights overhead the only constant sound in the vast cubicle farm. I worked at Fairview Solutions, a tech company nestled on the 13th floor of a downtown skyscraper. My team had a deadline, and, as usual, that meant I was stuck working overtime. My stomach growled, reminding me I hadn't eaten since lunch. The break room was just down the hall, or so I thought. When I turned left instead of right, I figured I'd taken a wrong turn. It wasn't unusual. The building's layout was labyrinthine, with identical beige walls and cheap gray carpet. But as I walked down the hallway, something felt off. The fluorescent lights buzzed louder than usual, their flickering casting faint, disorienting shadows. The hallway seemed longer than I remembered, much longer. And when I reached the end, instead of finding the door to the break room, I was met with another hallway, stretching endlessly in both directions. That was my first clue that something was terribly wrong. I pulled out my phone to check the time. 10:37 p.m. No signal, not even Wi-Fi. My heart sank, but I laughed nervously. Guess the office rotor's acting up again, I muttered, trying to calm myself. I turned back, intending to retrace my steps, but the hallway behind me wasn't the one I'd just walked down. Instead, it stretched on forever, its walls lined with the same dull beige wallpaper. My pulse quickened. "What the hell?" I whispered. I walked, briskly at first, then faster. The air smelled faintly of mildew, and the overhead lights buzzed louder the farther I went. My footsteps echoed unnaturally, as though the sound was being swallowed and spat back at me from an invisible source. After what felt like an hour, I stopped, panting. The hallways didn't make sense. There were no doors, no windows, no turns, just endless corridors stretching into infinity. Panic clawed at my chest. That's when I saw it. A figure, far down the hallway, barely visible in the flickering light. It was humanoid but wrong. Its limbs were too long, its movements jerky and unnatural, like a puppet on tangled strings. It didn't have a face, just a blank, smooth surface where one should have been. I froze. The figure tilted its head, as if sensing my presence, then started moving toward me. It wasn't walking. It was gliding. I bolted. My shoes slapped against the carpet, the sound blending with the relentless hum of the lights. I didn't dare look back. The air grew heavier, oppressive, like I was running through syrup. My lungs burned, and my legs screamed for me to stop, but the thought of that thing catching me was enough to keep me going. I turned a corner, or what I thought was a corner, and skidded to a halt. The hallway opened into a massive, dimly lit room. The walls were the same faded beige, but the floor was different. Cracked linoleum that reeked of chemicals. The buzzing sound was deafening here, and I had to press my hands over my ears to keep from screaming. Then I noticed the holes. The floor was dotted with jagged, gaping holes, each one too dark to see the bottom. The air around them felt colder, and every so often I heard faint whispers emanating from their depths. My stomach churned and I backed away, straight into something solid. I spun around, my heart nearly stopping. It wasn't the faceless figure. It was worse. It looked human, but its skin was pale and translucent, and its eyes were hollow black pits. It opened its mouth, revealing jagged teeth, and let out a guttural screech that made my blood run cold. Before I could react, it lunged at me. I barely dodged the creature's lunge. its claws slicing through the air where my head had been. My foot slipped on the cracked linoleum, and I tumbled backward, stopping just inches from one of the dark holes. The icy cold radiating from it sent shivers up my spine. The creature hissed, its black eyes narrowing as it crouched, ready to strike again. My hands scrambled for something, anything, to defend myself. My fingers closed around a loose shard of linoleum. It wasn't much, but it would have to do. When the creature pounced, I swung wildly. The shard caught it across the chest, tearing its papery skin. A foul, black liquid oozed from the wound, and the creature let out an ear-splitting shriek. I used the moment to scramble to my feet and run. The buzzing overhead seemed to intensify, the lights flickering more erratically. My path twisted and turned, the hallways folding in on themselves in impossible ways. It felt like the backrooms themselves were alive, reshaping to trap me. I turned a corner and skidded to a halt. Ahead of me, the faceless figure from before was waiting, its elongated limbs twitching. Behind me, I heard the guttural growls of the creature I'd wounded. I was trapped. Desperation overtook me. I sprinted toward the faceless figure, hoping to dodge past it, but as I drew closer, it raised one impossibly long arm. The air around it seemed to shimmer, and suddenly the walls on either side of me cracked and began to fold inward. "No!" I screamed, diving forward just as the walls slammed together behind me. The impact sent me sprawling onto another hallway, but this one was different. The air here was thick and humid, and the buzzing sound was replaced by a deep, rhythmic thrum. The walls were no longer beige. They were covered in pulsating, flesh-like material that seemed to breathe. The smell of rot was overwhelming, and I gagged as I stood up, my legs shaking. Ahead of me, the hallway ended in a single door. Unlike the rest of the backrooms, this door was made of polished wood, with an ornate brass handle. I hesitated. Every instinct told me that door wasn't an escape. It was a trap. But behind me, the growls of the creature grew louder, and I knew I didn't have a choice. I grabbed the handle and yanked the door open. I stumbled into a vast, cavernous space. The floor was made of dark, reflective glass that stretched endlessly, and the ceiling was so high it disappeared into darkness. In the center of the room stood a massive, pulsating structure, a tower of tangled wires, glowing with a sickly yellow light. The thrum I'd heard before was coming from it, vibrating through the glass beneath my feet. As I approached, I saw the same faceless figure standing at the base of the tower. It wasn't alone. Surrounding it were dozens of the translucent-skinned creatures, all staring at me with those hollow black eyes. My heart pounded. The tower felt important, like it was the source of everything, the buzzing, the creatures, the backrooms themselves. "You're not supposed to be here," a voice echoed. I turned, but there was no one behind me. The voice came again, louder this time. It wasn't a single voice. It was a chorus, layered and distorted. "You shouldn't have come. You shouldn't have seen." The faceless figure began to move, its limbs bending and twisting in unnatural ways as it approached me. The creatures followed, their movements eerily synchronized. I had seconds to act. My eyes darted to the base of the tower, where a tangle of cables connected it to the floor. Without thinking, I grabbed the hunting knife I'd clipped to my belt earlier and ran straight for the cables. The creatures screeched, surging toward me, but I didn't stop. I plunged the knife into the cables, severing them with a violent spark. The tower let out a deafening roar, the light inside it flaring brilliantly before dimming. The ground beneath me trembled, and the air around me grew heavier, denser, like it was collapsing in on itself. The creatures dissolved into ash, their screeches cutting off abruptly. The faceless figure froze, its body flickering like a glitching video before it, too, vanished. I collapsed to the ground, gasping for air. The room was silent now, the oppressive thrum gone. The glass floor cracked beneath me, spiderwebbing outward. Before I could react, the floor gave way, and I fell, plunging into darkness. I woke up in the breakroom. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly, and the smell of burnt coffee filled the air. My watch read 10:41 p.m. It was as if no time had passed. For a moment, I thought it had all been a nightmare. Then I noticed my hands, scratched and bleeding. with black stains under my nails. I glanced at the door, half expecting to see the faceless figure standing there. But it was just the familiar beige hallway. I didn't tell anyone what happened. How could I? But every time I walk down that hallway, I hesitate, half expecting the walls to shift, the lights to buzz louder, and the back rooms to pull me in again. Somewhere, deep down, I know I didn't destroy it. I just broke through, and it's still waiting.